What's in there? Can you make me show? I'm shocked you'd say that. Okay, if we can all come back and get in our seats. The next debate will be between Ben Barnett and Blake Ramey. If they would both please come up. Now, the last time we did this, because the oldest person got to pick whether it was heads or tails. These two, I have children older than both of them. So I'm going to flip it, and you're going to call.
Heads.
And it is tails. Ben, you have the choice whether to go first and finish first, or go second and finish second.
I want to finish second.
Then we will start with Blake taking the first question, or Blake taking the opportunity to talk for 2 minutes with an introduction, and then we will switch to Mr. Barnett, Ben, and he will have 2 minutes, and then we will start with the questions. We're going to change it just a little bit. The last time, the first question was passed between the two candidates back and forth, and then the second question. We're going to mix that up a little bit this time so that there's no preparation for what the next question is going to be. So, having said that, Blake, please take 2 minutes, little introduction. Thank you.
Well, I just want to say good evening to everybody, and thank you guys for coming out here today and participating and being involved in the future of Bell County and in this election. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Blake Charles Ramey, and as you can probably tell from the debate title, I'm running for PVA here in Bell County. And before we get into the questions, I just want to say that I appreciate the Republicans Women's Club for putting this on and giving me and Ben both a chance to speak to the voters. And I hope that at the end of this event, at the end of this debate, you'll be a little bit more informed about myself and hopefully be able to earn your vote at the end of the night. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, 2 minutes.
Hello, my name is Ben Barnett. I'm your Bell County PVA. I was elected PVA 4 years ago in 2022. I am a Kentucky certified assessor. We've worked hard in the office to upgrade the office, and I thought that maybe there's some room for improvement, and that's why I ran for office, was to bring a new perspective to the office and to bring new ideas. I want to thank the Women's Republican group for putting this on. I think this is a very important debate. I think that the previous debate was a very important debate. You know, there's two things that you can count on in life, and that's death and taxes, and we're going to cover them both tonight. So I think that this is a pretty unique opportunity. So I want to ask you all to please vote for me in the May Republican primary, and I hope that we can talk about some stuff tonight that will help inform the voters about the PVA office. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ben. Mr. Ramey, you will receive the first question. The first question is, what are your top priorities if elected PVA?
Yes, so I think it's important for any voter to know what an elected official is aiming to do for any office that they're running for. And when I've been out talking to people, I've made it pretty clear on what my standards would be and what my goals and plans would be. One, when you get out here talking to a lot of people, I have realized not a lot of people are familiar with the PVA office at all. I've had some people say I don't remember voting for it. And since it is an elected position, I feel like we definitely have a lot of room to improve on being vocal and being visible to actually educate the public on what the office does, how it can be a tool to the community. And I also believe that we need to be very consistent in the actions that we do to help the community. If elected, I believe that's your way of saying, Blake, I trust you to help me in any way that you can. And I believe that we need to be consistent day in and day out of what we do. So one example, the Homestead Exemption Act, which is if you're 65 or older or fully disabled, can help ease the tax burden in your financial situation. I've talked to some people that paid 15 years longer on the full amount of their property taxes simply because they didn't know. And they didn't find out through the office, but they found out accidentally some way. And I believe that the office needs to be more consistent and be the main driver of getting that across to the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, same question. What are your top priorities if elected PVA?
Well, you know, I think what Blake said is relevant, and that's why we have done more than I think any PVA in the past about public outreach. We take our time to go out. We've set up at grocery stores on first of the month. We've set up at festivals to try to reach out to people, to let them know about what the PVA office is, because when I ran for PVA 4 years ago, I ran into that quite a bit. And the truth of the matter is you don't deal with the PVA office till you have to deal with the PVA office. So it was my goal to expand upon our public presence. So we now have a website. We now have a Facebook page. Like I said, we do community outreach. And, if I'm fortunate enough to be reelected, I want to expand upon that, do those things more in a bigger way, because we've upgraded the technology in the office to be able to go further. We can go out, we can do things out in the field that we couldn't do in the past. We can take the office mobile. We can do things that had to be done in the office. We can take it out. We can sign people up on the homestead at their own house. We can move the office anywhere we want to on a whim. So that's I just want to continue to improve upon that and continue to get that information out there.
Thank you, Ben. Because Blake got the first question, this time it will go to Ben with the second question. How will you ensure property assessments are fair and equitable across all areas of Bell County?
Sure. So in my first 4 years, that's been a priority for me, is to make sure everything's fair and equitable. And when I took over as PVA, we're actually graded on how fair and equitable our assessments are. And so the Department of Revenue would like you to have a score of 20 for a rural county as far as an equitable assessment. So that basically means that things are on an even keel. You don't have a neighbor that is assessed at $50,000, another neighbor that is assessed at $100,000, and the house sells for $110,000. So there's a disparity there. When I took office, the score was 44. They want you to be at 20. We've improved that every single year. We've got it down to 25. So we are very, very close to that number. And I feel like I'm very proud of that fact, that we have been able to level the playing field and to be able to make things more fair across the board, to make sure that everybody's treated the exact same way. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Blake, how will you ensure property assessments are fair and equitable across all areas of Bell County?
Yes, I think when you're dealing with an office such as the PVA, it affects something that everybody pays a lot of attention to, and that's your checkbook. And so people don't like to feel like they get the short end of the stick on something, so to speak. And hopefully we'll get into this and some other questions as well. But I believe the biggest thing to make sure things are done fair is treat every single situation the same exact way. If your property, if you get a notice and if it does increase in value and you get a notice in the mail, I want to make sure that you know why it was increased. What was my proof? What was my base of saying, hey, this is why I had to make this decision? It's not that I just want to, right? But there's state laws that we have to follow and such. And so I want to make sure anytime I make a decision that impacts you, you understand why did Blake have to make that decision and what information and data was Blake looking at to get to that conclusion and to get to that answer. And just make sure that you deal with everybody the same exact way. My wife is here tonight. I don't want to treat a person, her family, any different for the same problem as if someone in Ben's family came to the office with a problem. Treat everybody the same, and no one can say, well, I feel like I got the short end of the stick, and if you just stick to clear explanations of why you do the things and make the decisions that you have to make. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Your turn again, Blake. What steps would you take if citizens believe their property has been overvalued?
Well, first of all, I want everybody to know that I would always have an open door. I'm not scared if someone doesn't understand or even disagrees with me on something. Part of public office is if you don't like hard conversations, you probably shouldn't run. I wouldn't have even threw my name out there if I wasn't afraid of a scenario like that. And so I just want to say, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected and you feel like my property is too high, I want you to know you can always come in and let's sit down and look at it. And hopefully, one of two things are going to happen. Either one, we realize a mistake has been made and let's get that corrected and lower that value. Or two, you better understand the process of why the PVA has to make decisions that they make. So you know we're not just doing it, so to speak. And you see the steps we have to take to say this is the value of this specific property. And if that doesn't work, there is also an appeals process. I talked to one lady here a while back, didn't even know that she could potentially appeal her property if she disagreed with it. So I do want to make the appeals process very easy to find, post it when that time of year is coming around, and possibly even look into hosting an appeals class for the public saying if you disagree with your property valuation, this is the information you can bring to the PVA office in hopes of possibly correcting that, or as I said, if we don't already prove, these are the decisions we made and this will uphold. Thank you.
Ben, what steps would you take if citizens believe their property has been overvalued?
Well, first of all, the most important thing is open door policy. If you come to my office, there's many times that you'll catch me in the front office, and I try my best to go out of the way to talk to folks, to help them with day-to-day stuff, not just reassessment issues. So to put a name with the face, you know, that open door policy I think is very important, as Blake said. But the biggest thing is we have 14,000-ish parcels in Bell County. We do what's called mass appraisal, and so we're going to make mistakes. That's just all there is to it. And, you know, because we're driving by, or we're getting satellite image, or, you know, we're putting assessments on pictures of outsides. We don't get to do like an appraiser, get to go in the house, check out the foundation, all that stuff. So anybody that's ever had an issue, they come to my office and we talk it out. And I'm always open to talking with the people about what their issue is and how we can help and maybe come to an agreement about a value. You know, I'm not looking to force my opinion on you. You know, I could be wrong. And if the people come by and they say, hey, you know, I've got foundation issues, I've got this going on, you know, we can look at that. We send our field staff out to verify that information, and we work with the public to help them with their assessments to get it more fair, like I was saying earlier. And in order to do that, we have to take our time, we have to work with the public, and we have to get visual confirmation of that and see where we can meet with that person. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Questions for Ben? How do you plan to maintain consistency in property assessments year to year?
Yeah, so, you know, when assessing property, it's best to use the same methods. All right, so if you're going to use rental property and you're going to use income approach, you need to use income approach on every single rental property. You don't use any, you know, sales comparison approach on one and income approach on the other, because that can vastly skew the consistency of the assessments. You know, you can come way out higher on the income approach than you might on a sales comparison approach. So what we do is we use the same techniques every year, consistently every year. We look at it the exact same way, and we look at every home individually and try to take those approaches that are, I would say, just, you know, the same approaches, I guess. That way we can look at it and go, you know, I not get confused and go, well, I assessed Larry's house using a cost approach, and I assessed Blake's house using income approach. You just got to be consistent in how you assess and the methods that you use. And I think that we do that on a daily basis.
Thank you, Ben. Blake, question. How do you plan to maintain consistency in property assessments year to year?
Yeah, so I think that goes back to just making sure you are consistent in treating every situation the same way, regardless of what that person is. And in this instance, I agree with Ben that one way you want to ruffle feathers really quick is if I appraise or if I assess one house using the sales approach, and then I take a very similar property and use the income approach. So in Bell County, we are residential heavy, so the thing that you're going to see the most if there is a change in your property value, more than likely is going to be the market approach. And that means, as a real estate agent, I do this all the time, we're going to look at recent and similar sales around you. And so we need to make sure that if we're using these comps to adjust values, making sure that we're using the best comps available. And an example I'll give is if we are assessing a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,100 square foot home, a 5-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,300 square foot home probably isn't the best comp for that. So making sure that you, the taxpayer, knows, hey, these are the properties that are influencing what's happening to my value. I believe that goes a long way in conjunction with making sure you use the same approach from every single property for every single similar situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Blake, the next question is yours. How will you make the assessment process more transparent to taxpayers?
Yeah, so I believe as a government official, as an elected official, the people's vote means they trust you, and transparency is something that is talked about a lot, but there's not very good definitions all the time. So one way that I believe that the PVA office specifically could be more transparent, especially when it comes to assessments, is this. Every single year, there's so many sales in any county, correct? And any sale is not necessarily a comp or a comparable sale that could influence other properties' assessments. For example, if a home is sold as a foreclosure, that is not a comparable sale. An arm's length transaction, meaning if I sold a house to someone and there was no undue forces on me or them, that is an arm's length sale that can be used as a comp. And so I just believe that making sure people know what those comps are, I believe that we need to make sure we're using the best ones available on that specific instance. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, the question, how will you make the assessment process more transparent to taxpayers?
Well, I think that the PVA office, outside of maybe the clerk's office, is probably the only office that you can come in and actually look at our work on any given day. So you can go through, and we have a public terminal out front that you can come in and you can actually go through the tax roll. The tax roll's available right out front. Everything's available. You can see what my house is assessed at. You can see what Blake's house is assessed at. You can see whatever, and see what those tax bills are. You can actually even see, if you come in weekly, daily, whatever, and see us actually work on the tax roll. So we offer that to people, and we have people all the time that come in and ask, hey, are we being, reassessed this year? And so we make that information available to them. The other side of that is just being active on social media. So we've in the past used, showing where our current quad is. We assess, typically we reassess the county in quarters, 1 quarter at a time. And we'll let people know through social media, radio, other means that, hey, we're working this area's under reassessment for this year, and this is what we're working on. And I think that, again, expanding on that, I don't think that's ever been done before I was PVA, and I think we'll, in the future, expand on that process to make it where people understand that, hey, this is how it works, this is what we're doing, and if you got any questions, come in and talk to us.
Thank you, Ben. Next question will go to Blake. Blake, how can technology be used to improve accuracy and efficiency in the property boundaries to ensure property lines match physical maps?
So I believe that technology is an important part in a changing world. And I want to say this, as a real estate agent, many times, especially with land, not all the time, but especially vacant land, property lines are important to people. They want to know exactly where it is. And I've dealt with the PVA mapping system quite a bit. And sometimes I'll say they're pretty close, and other times they're not close at all. So what I believe the thing we could do that would best combat problems in property lines is working with homeowners and surveyors And I want to use an example. I had a question from a citizen saying, I took a survey to the PVA, and it took a while to get it uploaded into the system to better show my actual property lines and be more accurate. And so I did reach out to a former PVA and say, hey, is this something that we can actually work on, that we can actually improve on? And if so, how long should that take? And that PVA said that it would only take her a few days. She could upload it into the system. And this person, it took several months. So I just believe we need to be more prompt if a survey is brought in, and also actually use social media to encourage people. If you have a survey, bring it in so that we can update these things and better have more accurate records. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, how can technology be used to improve accuracy and efficiency in property boundaries to ensure property lines match physical maps?
All right, so technology isn't the limiting factor here. The limiting factors are information and manpower. We have the technology to have very accurate lines. If we got a survey, we can lay it down within, the accuracy of that survey. It depends, as long as the survey is accurate, our aerials are survey quality, so we can lay it in there just like the information. The problem is that most deeds in this county, and basically any rural county, use old descriptions. So if you got if it says we're going northwest 150 feet to a round rock and then 34 feet south to a small spruce tree, those properties are next to impossible to map from a standpoint of on the computer. And so so that's the first issue, is the information within the deed. The second thing is, again, we got 14,000 parcels, and so I work on it basically every day. Every chance I get, I pull deeds and look at those properties and see which ones I can fix the property lines on. Now, I will say this: the PVA property lines are for tax purposes only. They say at the bottom when you come in our office that they are not for survey, they are not for conveyance. They are for us to have an idea of where the property is, what kind of property it is, and the location of the property. I would put our survey or our map lines up against any county in this region as far as accuracy. I believe that there's nobody out there that's got more accurate lines than we do. There is some problems, but that's just part of being in rural southeastern Kentucky. And until everybody gets a survey, you're not going to be able to fix that.
Thank you, Ben. Next question is going to Ben. How will you ensure the PVA office is accessible and helpful to all residents, including seniors without internet access?
Yeah, so I touched on this earlier. Community outreach, that's a big thing. And like I said, we have went out and we have met people where they're at. We go out, and if we can find somebody that's 65 or older that's eligible for the homestead and they can't get out to the office, we can go to them and sign them up on the spot thanks to the technology that we've improved in the office. All right. We have also been able to go to grocery stores, festivals, wherever, because we're able to operate the office from wherever we're at. So we can access that information, see if you're on the homestead, sign you up right there on the spot, get all the information and get you going out the door, and get you some information there. So we have reached out to those people that don't have the internet. I would like to, in the next 4 years, if I'm fortunate enough to be elected, is to reach out to nursing homes, because a lot of people don't realize that just because you're in a nursing home, that doesn't mean you're not eligible for the homestead exemption on your home. So we'd like to do that. Also, what we would like to do in the future, and we've had preliminary discussions with the city of Millsboro and the sheriff and a few others, to put a PVA representative in during tax season in Millsboro, so that people that come in and pay their tax bills can ask questions to us directly without having to come to Pineville.
Thank you, Ben. Blake, How will you ensure the PVA office is accessible and helpful to all residents, including seniors, without internet access?
Yeah, I believe that to make sure the office is accessible, we need to put a definition on what accessible is. And so for me, I want to start off touching on this. If I am elected, if you ever call my office with a question, whether I have the answer at that moment or whether there's something we need to do some digging on to find out more information, you will always have a call back within 48 hours, letting you know where we're at on that problem. Another thing is if you call and say, I would like to talk to Blake, if I'm not there, there will always, without fail, be a specific time that I should be back, and to an extent, a reason of why I'm not there, whether I'm out of town on trainings, whether it's a meeting with another citizen or whatever. I just want to make sure people know where their elected officials are, and an actual consistent social media presence. We can do better than posting once a few months, especially on the Homestead Exemption Act. That don't cost the taxpayers anything at all. So I believe that we need, and I promise that my office will be making at least one social media post a week that's informative about the office to help the public. And as far as the individuals and the elderly with no internet access, we just need to increase and make sure we keep showing up at public events. And anytime we know we're going to be somewhere, whether that's a school festival, the Mountain Laurel Festival, whatever, also post that as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Next question, we'll go back to Blake. How would you manage the PVA office budget responsibly and reduce unnecessary costs?
Yeah, so I thought this may come up, and so I did make a request to see the PVA budget, and I want to give my opponent credit. He did get it over to me. I don't know if it would differ anywhere, but the budget was not actually broken down into what specific expenses were. I will say the bulk of it was staff, and you got to have the staff in order to keep the office running efficiently. So I want people to know that whatever, if I was elected and I seen a place that we could clean up in the budget, absolutely I would. The biggest thing I want people to know is any decisions that I make, whether that is a budget decision and saying, hey, man, maybe we need to figure out how to spend more money doing this, or we need to cut money here. I want to make sure I always take into consideration what is it doing to you guys, the taxpayers and the citizens of Bell County. Is that decision to cut spending here, is that improving our quality of service? If it decreases our quality of service, obviously we don't want to cut anything like that out. So I promise, as a real estate agent, as a real estate investor in the county, you got to work with budgets. And I promise to always make sure that I make smart financial decisions for the people of Bell County. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, how would you manage the PVA office budget responsibly and reduce unnecessary costs?
Sure. So I treat the PVA office resources and budget like I would my own my own home budget. We try to be as frugal with your tax dollars as possible. I'm proud. I'm actually really proud of my record here in that we have managed to spend less money over my tenure than previously. We've doubled the amount of money that we have saved back. And as a result of that, and with a initiative with a cooperation with the fiscal court, we've actually been able to reduce a statutory requirement that the fiscal court pays $8,800 to the PVA office for phone and internet. And since we have switched over to a voice over IP system with, like I said, in cooperation with the Bell County Fiscal Court, that has reduced our costs so significantly, and we've been so frugal with the money that we're now going to be able to turn back that $8,800 back to the fiscal court. every year. And so you're looking at over a 4-year span, basically $35,000 that's going back to the county to use for something better than the PVA internet or phones. And I think we've done a lot of things like that to cut back, to to trim down things that we don't need to necessarily spend money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Ben, the next question is yours. What safeguards would you put in place to prevent conflicts of interest and avoid favoritism in property assessments?
Well, like I was saying earlier, the tax roll is available for inspection for anybody. So anybody can come in and take a look at it and see how things are going. But I think that a lot of it starts with the PVA. And, as far as favoritism or, being able to be non-biased. I have 2 properties. I have a 3/4 acre tract that my house sits on and a 2.5 acre tract that I use to get away from the world and let the kids play. And I have no interest in making money in real estate. I have no affiliation with realtors. I have no affiliation with property, make money off rentals, that sort of thing. So I think that gives me an opportunity to be extremely unbiased in that I can look at it from a standpoint of not being tied to anything, not being tied to any single person or any single organization, or not look at it from a standpoint of making money, but as a part of, just being fair to the taxpayer and being able to relate to the people that commonly have only a property or 2. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Blake, what safeguards would you put in place to prevent conflicts of interest and avoid favoritism in property assessments?
Yes, so I believe it all goes back to, again, being very consistent in how you deal with every single situation. And I do want to touch on that the real estate, me as a realtor, I could not practice actual real estate in Bell County if elected PVA. And I wouldn't run if I didn't want to give something like that up for this position to be a benefit to Bell County. So I would not actually actively practice my realtor license here in Bell County. As far as rental properties or anything like that goes, as I said, people want to make sure, if something changes in my assessment value, why do I got to pay more, right? And if anything else, my experience in real estate makes sure that I know what those best comps are, what properties actually should influence your property. And I also want to say an idea that I would like to incorporate into the office is every single quarter post all of the comparable sales in the addresses. So you see what sales are taking place, you can see what sales are taking place near you, and when you see your assessment, you'll know that the comps will be posted at some point in the year. So you know what properties might be able to be influencing my value if it did change. And as I said, I believe that the background in real estate is for the people's benefit to have someone that not only understands things as a property owner, but also as an investor standpoint as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Last question to Blake. How familiar are you with Kentucky's property tax laws and assessment procedures?
Yeah, so one thing that I want to say about the whole tax process is the PVA does not control the entire thing. Out here, as I've been talking to people, as I said, a lot of people truly don't understand the PVA office. And I've been asked, are you going to raise the tax rate? Are you going to raise my taxes? Well, and I think Ben would agree with me here, we have nothing to do with actual tax rates. That is up to other taxing authorities, your school boards, your city, your county, your state. The only thing that we do is assess it fairly. Now, it doesn't matter who the PVA is. It doesn't matter if If it is me, it doesn't matter if it is Ben or any of you in this room, there's certain laws that you have to follow by when assessing properties. And one thing is the state wants it to be close to the fair cash value or the market value of a home. So sometimes if a property value is increased, it's not because, oh, Blake's after more money or Ben's after more money. It's because not one man can control the market. And if you look back and you zoom out, yes, there's bad years in real estate, but typically it has gone up over time, and that is why we have seen increases in property values, not just here in Bell County, but in other places as well. So, thank you.
Thank you, Blake. Ben, the question is, how familiar are you with Kentucky's property tax laws and assessment procedures?
Like I said in my introduction, I'm a certified Kentucky assessor, and in that you have to take 2 classes on Kentucky tax law, and they're a week long. And I don't know if you've ever thought about sitting through a week-long tax law class, but it's not a whole lot of fun. And but it's extremely informative because the part of the job of the PVA, at least in my opinion, is to be a buffer between the state and the local residents. Okay, the state wants their money. That's the end of the day. That's what they want. And so when the state comes in, like Blake says, you know, they say there's law that says, you know, hey, look, we got to be closer to fair market value. But knowing the law on a very high level is really important, because it allows me to work with the system to avoid those extremely high raises when the market's really high and those really low swings when it's low, you know, to keep it even instead of coming all the way up. You know, when I first took office, the median home sale in Bell County was $73,000. It's $114,000 right now. So if we just use strictly market value and go straight to that, I mean, that's going to be an incredible increase on your market value. My approach is to be more steady about it, to use the law, and you know, to help with the sales ratio, to know how that works, so that we're not missing anything and that we're not being forced by the state to go to that extremely high market value, and we can start to try to meet it as it comes back now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. That was the last question that I have. The coin flip at the start. Ben won. He chose to go second, so that's going to allow Blake to close first. So you have 2 minutes. Thank you.
Yes, I just want to thank everybody once again for being here tonight, and I appreciate the opportunity to partake in this. I just want you to think about something in this election. I believe that this specific race is not a decision between a candidate with way more experience than the other. This is not a debate or not a race where you have one candidate who has 25 years worth of PVA experience versus someone that's never dealt with property, like it has been in other PVA races. This is a choice between a challenger that's more than qualified, that was the only person from the county to take the state exam this year that is required to be passed to run for PVA, and someone who has as much property experience as a current PVA. And so I am also committed to getting my Certified Kentucky Assessors Association if I am elected. That is something you only get if you are actually in office. Same thing with Senior Kentucky Assessor. You can only get those things if you're actually in the office. You can't get them if you're currently out of them. And I believe that we can actually have true, consistent vocals on social media. As I said, not hit or miss, not spotty, but every single week you can expect to hear from my office. And I also want to say, to improve transparency, I would like to, in addition to the quarterly comp list, every single quarter, post the expenses of the PVA office. That way you know exactly where every single dollar is spent. How much is spent on advertising? How much is it spent on technology? Whatever it is. I think that's a great idea to improve trust and transparency between the public and office. And I hope you'll keep me in mind, and hopefully I'll earn your vote and support on May the 19th. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Blake. Ben, you have 2 minutes.
It's perfect timing because I've ran out of water. At the end of the
I
day.
can get you another water, but you can't
appreciate
have
that.
more minutes.
I want to thank Blake for talking with us, having this debate. I think that these debates are a great thing for transparency. I think it's a great thing for the community to learn what we do and be more involved in just the community as a whole. You know, people don't, I don't think, put a lot, as much effort as they should into learning about these positions and what we're voting for and the candidates, and I appreciate this process. I just want to touch on a few things. First of all, again, you know, I have been around for a while. I started out as a dispatcher. I was an assistant to Paul Wilson as emergency management director. And I was emergency management director from 2013 to the time I took office. And I have extensive experience in mapping, in property valuation. I've prided myself on being a student of this office. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to learn, to really put in the time. You know, it's hard work sometimes. You got to be away from your family. But, you know, we put in more training than necessary to be as experienced as possible on this. And like I was saying earlier, I have no skin in the game. I think that allows me to be as unbiased as possible. And I think that helps me to be as fair as possible with everybody. And we want to try to expand on our services while cutting costs. And like I said, giving that money back to the taxpayer, I think, is a fine start. And I will be looking to do a lot more stuff like that in the next 4 years if you'll allow me to be your PVA and rehire me. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. I'd like to thank both candidates for being very professional while they were up here, giving some good information to make a decision about your voting. Informed voters make better decisions, and that's what these are all about. So, having said that, thank you to the ladies' Republican group and to all the candidates that came up and worked with us today, and a special thanks to Elizabeth Maiden. So, thank you so much.